Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Falcione, the editor of HopNews.com. Thank you for watching those beautiful pictures I took. Well, wait a minute now. I didn't take the picture of the schooner. That was John Collins. I want to give him a shout out and thank him for sending that. With me today is the developer of Legacy Farms, of Danforth Landing,
Danforth Green in Framingham,
uh-huh, and the Beach House
a beach house in Revere.
in Revere. And we're going to see some of that stuff pretty soon. Why don't we see some of it now, Eric? Do you mind? Eric's going to display some of Legacy Farms, which a lot of people, hopefully a lot of viewers and readers from Legacy Farms are watching this. And there's the actual overhead sketch, you would say, overlay on the regular town, which shows the, is it 1,615 or was it 900 and something acres?
700. You talking about the nursery or the
Well,
legacy?
Legacy.
Legacy is 720 acres.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Just to
And-
put that in context, Robert, the city of Nahant, which is right off the shore of Revere, is 600 acres. So Legacy Farms is larger than Nahant.
Well, and it's and I love the way it's maturing.
It's coming together quite nicely. The south side of Legacy now is completed and fully sold out.
And that's it on the left. Could we see that, Eric? So that's on the right. Well, what you're seeing now, ladies and gentlemen, is this looks like a drone or a.
My son Roy, by the way, my son Roy and my other son Todd are my partners,
Uh-huh.
not only at Legacy but on all our projects for based on
That's
development.
excellent.
Yes, that was shot by my son Roy with a drone.
And you know that's fairly recent, isn't it?
I think that was last year.
Oh, I see. Well, it looks so nice. I mean, it's got such nice lines and it has a lot of. I can see a lot of diagonals and a lot of equal distances between homes. I mean, it's really nice architecturally. And then you have the pond, which I don't think you can walk to, can you?
Oh yes, we have actually
The trail, right?
we have mowed walking trails around the entire property that members of the neighborhood can use, members of the entire community can use, and they get a lot of use. As you know, we have a 8-foot wide sidewalk through the entire length of Legacy South and Legacy North, which every time I drive through, I see people throughout the entire community enjoying using.
I saw that too today. A longtime resident and some people that looked like they might have moved in. I didn't recognize them as residents, but the other
Yeah.
person definitely was. And as we look at that photo and the rotary, I'm sure people can see the rotary. It may be small right now, but when we save it to YouTube, they can have a full screen if they want. Right now, we have a smaller display because the program we use is not able to insert ads into that small display.
Sure.
But if
You can also see all these pictures on BasestoneDevelopment.com. You'll see there's a segment on Legacy Farms that you can look at a lot of pictures.
But by the rotary, if you just go past the rotary
Yeah.
and continue southeast, there's a little there's the bridge
Yes.
and there's a little pond
Yes. Parking area.
and there's a parking area, and that's where you can walk to that pond from.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
And I've taken some photos. And in fact, I'll point them out as they go by later.
Oh, great.
I'll point out the ones I've taken at that, not the big pond, but the one right by the road.
I saw one that you took of a crane.
Oh, right, the heron, is that a crane?
I mean, heron, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, crane, heron.
And he's
Similar.
looking back at me. You know, I'm
Yeah,
taking a photo, he's looking back. Is he shooting me?
Well, he was posing.
Yes, they do, the animals. They love to pose. So, now, that's the south side we just saw. And what is that you have, Eric? Is that your apartments on the south side?
Yes, those are the 240 units of apartments on the south side.
Yeah, and there's the
Clubhouse.
clubhouse for that. So if anyone needs an apartment in Hopkinton, there's plenty. They probably still have plenty. This next one, you may remember you and I and Reed Blute.
Correct. This is one of the model homes of Pulte Homes.
It is just gorgeous. Just gorgeous.
And this is that rainy day for the ribbon cutting
Yeah.
for the opening of Legacy Farms North.
Oh, right. I have with me right now a piece of ribbon. Eric, can you show me? Okay, there it is. it's a piece of the ribbon that you just saw being cut, and I'm going to hold on to that for a while. Thank you, Roy, for that piece
Oh,
of
you're
ribbon.
welcome.
So, what do we have next, Eric? Oh, that was taken on the bridge that goes over the water that we were just talking about,
Yeah.
not the one at the end of the trail.
Sure.
And I saw it, and I thought, I saw movement, that's all I saw. And so I took a photo of the movement, and it turns out that it's some kind of frog. Tiny little frog. Those are blades of grass. That's not
No, I
like-
know. It
Yeah.
always amazes me when I look at your website, because I look at it almost daily.
Thank you.
And it's interesting to see some of the unbelievable nature shots that you take.
It's just wonderful. I mean, but that's on your property. The development that you put together and that you are still putting together. And I don't know how else. If I hadn't have been drawn to that area, I never would have had that shot. Never would have known about that frog. And for people looking at it, those are actual blades of grass
Yeah.
in Hopkinton. That's not the Amazon. And that frog is the tiniest thing. I think it's like thumbnail size. So it was really a treat to be able to photograph that. And there's that great blue heron that was looking back at me.
Yeah.
And so I asked Eric to put these together because so many of them, and that's once again at the pond by the road. And so is that turtle. It's on the other side
Yeah.
of the road.
Beautiful.
And yeah, it just really is. And I see a bird there. I'm not sure what that is. But once again, I'm not sure where at Legacy it is, but it said Legacy in the file, so
Yes.
we assume it's down. Oh, probably right around that area. It looks like.
No, it is.
Yeah, it looks like where I took it. What's that next frame?
You talking about this one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's another segment of the housing on the north side.
Oh, the restricted age housing.
No.
Oh,
No,
Just,
that's a loop. That's one segment of the development.
uh-huh.
The picture you're looking at on the left is, well, I'm sorry, you changed projects. That's what got me a little confused.
Oh, the projects have
yeah, I was
changed
gonna say,
already?
this is Danforth
Oh,
Green
well, let's
right
get
there.
back to Danforth in a minute. You want to scroll back? You want to rewind? Because I want to ask about a couple things.
Sure.
One of them is all the land on the south side purchased? Oh, wait a second. I know that you have a was it active community on Route 135? Is it
So right now,
restricted age?
the only thing that's remaining on the south side is we have about a 6-acre commercial parcel
Yep.
on East Main Street,
Mhm.
adjacent to the senior living. We have the
Okay.
old home at 83 East Main Street, which is actually zoned commercial also.
Ah,
And we're looking at some ideas for a development there, possibly restoring that older home and tying it in with a retail component.
oh,
So other than that, everything is either built and or sold on the south side.
now there was going to be. I recall Weston was going back up what used to be Franklin Road, which is now Legacy North,
Yes.
and you were going to have a whole bunch of commercial down there. Is that
We
changed since?
well, we were, and it's still zoned and permitted for that possibility.
Uh-huh.
I know I've been in discussions with the Mezzets, and the Mezzets are doing things on their own. And I think longer term, they're looking at some possible retail component on that, on their own.
Oh, good. Now, what are you looking to put next to the assisted living?
We're looking at a number of ideas. It could be commercial, it could be retail. Talking to a number of different parties right now. So I think what was really important for the retail and commercial components of this project is to complete as much housing as possible, because retailers look at the number of rooftops. When you have a lot of rooftops, a lot of people, a lot of customers, that's really important to them.
And oh, I'm sorry, go on.
So I was going to say, it's interesting because when you look at the traffic counts on Route 135
Uh-huh.
or East Main Street or Main Street, right now there are about 15,000 trips per day.
Mm-hmm.
And most retailers, I know people complain about the amount of traffic, but the reality is if you want to get retailers want more traffic than that.
Right.
They want
Oh, yeah.
18,000,
Oh, right.
19,000 cars per day. Not that I'm suggesting we'll ever get there, but it makes it more difficult to get retail without that much traffic.
I see. So, So what kind of retail do you think you might find to fit in?
We've had a number of potential restaurants, retail sales of various sorts,
Mhm.
things such as that. You know,
Oh.
usually they go anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 square feet.
Well,
So what we're really trying to do is get a list of enough potential retailers who may want to go in there, so it would justify building an entire building.
ah,
Because that site, you could permit as much as 40 or 50,000 square feet there.
well, that's great. Now, that's the last piece. Maybe the old house.
Yeah.
There was one other piece, but how many permitted, well, how many allowable units have been completed?
The 240 apartments have been completed on the south side.
Uh-huh.
275 homes on the south side, completed and pretty much sold.
Uh-huh.
Pulte is in the process now of building an additional 425 on the north side. I think they have well over 35 sold already.
Uh-huh.
And as you could drive through, you can see they're very quickly moving along. And
I love driving through there.
yeah, I think they'll probably sell 75 or 80 a year.
Wow. Well, I know that there was in this whole thing that you've done is remarkable. I mean, I'm not trying to score points. It's just who would not agree? It's just a remarkable thing that you've done. You've put, I mean, the marathon has always been one thing, but what you've done is you've created this energy in town with the people moving in. What do they call it when you get enough? It also
Critical mass.
Yeah. And so you're kind of like creating a critical mass for a lot of other things to happen.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think I got to give a lot of credit to the community. As you recall, we started this process back in 2007. We're
Right.
talking over 10 years ago. I mean, you and I have been working with each other and dealing with each other over that period of time. And as you recall, in the first year and a half, we spent a tremendous amount of time with the land study committees, the planning board, the selectmen, neighborhood groups, scoping sessions, visioning sessions, as you recall all that.
Oh, sure.
And it was determined at that time, working with all these groups, that we had 720 acres of land. So it was determined that the most important thing in people's minds, one was to have 500 acres of open space, which we're going to have when we're complete. A project to bring the homes closer together to allow to have this much open space. Now, we could have very easily spread these homes around, but instead of having 500 acres of open space, you may have only had 100 or 200 acres. So it was determined people wanted the open space, they wanted trails, they wanted access to for the entire community, not just people who lived there, and they wanted it revenue positive. That was a very important component.
Right.
Because when you look at something of this magnitude, this could change a town in a very positive way, or not so much so, if it wasn't revenue positive. Now, I'm pleased to say that at this not this early stage, but this stage on the south side, this project is throwing off tremendous positive net revenue to the town.
Oh, great.
To a point where I think it's helping in doing some of the underrides, it's helping to pay for a lot of things in the town. I think it's positive revenue, net revenue, well over $1.5 million.
Is that due to building permits?
No, the building
different
permits are just a one-time payment.
Right.
So it's the property taxes, it's the net revenue coming from the units. When you look at the units on the north side, that'll actually add more. And once we finally do the age restrictor component, believe it or not, that's going to be the largest single turbo boost.
Wasn't there like $1.5 million?
It's $1.5 million net revenue. I'm not talking gross. I'm talking after all expenses can be about $1.5 million net. That's a huge, huge number. The average house in Hopkinton does not have net positive revenue
Yes,
because of
however
because
many
number of
children.
school-age children, and or
Right.
because it's an older property, has a lower assessment. These properties, if a house trades, do the math, if a house trades at $550,000, the town usually assesses close to 95% of that number. So you'll do the math, that house is probably paying $8,000-9,000 a year in taxes or more, depending on how it's assessed.
Right.
So that's a tremendous boost to the town.
Now, how did you keep have to do with bedrooms or?
Well, yes, that's a very good point. So one of the things, I will say that the planning and the master plan special permit process in Hopkinton is probably one of the most complex, the most sophisticated permitting processes we've ever been through. And much kudos to the town, because between the selectmen, the planning board, and others, it's a very, very detailed document. And it restricts locations of units, it restricts the number of bedrooms in a unit, it even has certain clauses if you go over certain things.
Right.
So it's been very beneficial. The majority of the units are two-bedroom. So, I mean, how many people are you really going to live in a house with two bedrooms? Now, there are some threes, and there are a few 15 single families, but the majority of the units are only two bedrooms. And when you look at tracking the number of school-aged children, we've been doing that with the school committee and the selectmen for the last 7 years. We're right on track.
Really. And there really wasn't going to be, and if there is any kind of impact on the schools, I think, don't you have something you have to kick in?
Yeah, we got to kick in $500,000. That's probably a little bit more than that by the time we're done.
Yeah.
So I think this sort of checks and balances in this whole thing. But the good news is the tax revenue from the early stages and projected the next latter stages can be very, very positive for the town.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so I'm seeing the two-bedroom, the abundance of the two bedrooms as the biggest contributor to
No question.
positive
No,
revenue. So
yeah.
that was planned very well.
Yeah.
And I know that that a lot of the townspeople, and I'm not sure who paid Judy Barrett, and now she's a community planner, as well as a
like all the town's consultants, we pay for them all, but they're doing the work for the benefit of the town.
right.
So their boss is not us. Their boss is the town.
Right. And even the peer reviews,
Same
even
thing.
if you pay them,
Yep.
the boss is the town.
But
And
Judy Barrett had it right from the get-go. She really did. I think kudos to her, because I think she had good visioning about where it was going to go and what it's going to be.
in the town kind of followed her. I think she left the original company that she was with,
She did.
and then when I don't know if she's on Community. Do you remember the company?
I don't. I think she may have changed again. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, but she's well respected.
Very well respected.
Very well respected, and it's nice to hear you put these figures out there and explain what is going on, what has gone on, because I think a lot of people get something in their head and they pass it along.
Well, I think it's important to also point out that there's a lot of things we've done in the community relative to what I'll call mitigation, if you will. If you recall, we widened the downtown intersection.
I sure do.
We
Yeah.
put in brand new traffic lights. We put new
Yeah.
sidewalks along East Main Street. We put new sidewalks down Rafferty Road.
Mhm.
We did some work there. We've contributed money recently to a townwide trail system of $750,000. We've
Fantastic.
contributed another $750,000 to lower the wires in downtown over time,
Oh, to bury them?
to bury them.
Oh.
And we're going to be giving another $1,500,000 next year for trails, for other purposes in the community.
Oh, it just doesn't get divided?
Well, again, it's up to the
I'm only kidding.
Yeah, it's up to the selectmen at the end of the day how it's going to get spent. But I think there's a direction for beautifying downtown and putting trails. When I say trails, I don't mean trails at Legacy Farms. That's our hunt.
Right.
I'm talking about other trails in town.
Oh, right, sure. I mean, I think Paul Mastroianni's doing some trails too, if everything works
Okay,
the
good.
way everyone wants it to, which,
Yeah, I think that's great.
and I look out at that from the Spoon. You been in the
Yeah.
Spoon?
Yeah, yeah.
I love the food.
Yeah,
I
it's
love the
great.
food
It's
there.
great.
And I look out at those
The 110
apartments.
grill is great too.
Yeah, oh, I do. I like 110 also. But you can't see the apartments from the 110. But when I look out at those apartments,
Yeah.
what's the name of it?
Modera.
Oh, Modera, right. They were calling it Hopkinton Muse, which is a little close to Hopkinton News. Hello, who thought of that one, please? And but I look out from a seat in the Spoon, and I think, wow, look at all those future customers.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
380.
There's
I
a big
think.
synergy there.
Mm.
And I think, when you think about, if you want to revitalize downtown, you need people with disposable income. And I think whether it's
Right.
restaurants, whether it's retail, whatever the case may be.
Oh, definitely. And so these are young people, no doubt, that are going to be in there, and the Spoon may have to enlarge because of it. You know, they are on the end,
Yeah.
so they really
Yeah.
could just bust through there.
Well, that would be good.
Yeah, that'd be great. And so you don't think a restaurant would work down on East Main, huh?
It very well could. We're,
Yeah.
we're looking at all those options.
Legal Seafoods. You know, I forget the gentleman's name.
Roger Berkowitz.
Well, that's that's the owner.
Yeah.
The CFO used to live in Hopkinton.
Oh, he did.
He did. What a fine man too. And he
Mhm.
was an Irishman, and he was quite witty and very intelligent. I don't know if he's still the CFO though. And at that time, I had a poll on Hop News, and Red Lobster lost big time. Oh, we don't want it was like saying, do you want a Walmart? And
Yeah.
you know, but Legal Seafoods, like I think it was over 90% of the people wanted a Legal Seafoods. But I know that they probably want more traffic
Yeah.
than what we have on Route 135.
That's what it all comes down to.
Hmm.
Traffic, disposable income, and number of people passing through.
Yeah, and I know they're doing a nice job on that building I was in. By the way, I just want to say to people, and I don't mean to rob Roy of his time. That's funny, like, come on, Rob Roy. So, but a lot of people are confused. They'll say to me, "Oh, you left your shop because this or that." We left the shop because there was a toxic spill. That's why we left where we were for 24 years. I just want to make sure people know that, because you heard it from the horse's mouth just now. So whatever anyone else tells you, let them know the truth. So that's what I was talking about when I said critical mass. And you really did start it. You started this. I mean, Hopkinton. Everyone knew where Hopkinton was. But when I moved in to Hopkinton in 1979, you quickly knew everybody.
Well, but Hopkinton has really changed. I mean, you look at Hopkinton. Hopkinton's a great community.
Mm.
You know, you've got number 3 school system in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. 351 cities and towns. And this is
Right.
number 3.
Mm.
That's unbelievable. That says a lot about the community. The one thing I admire about Hopkinton is there's a tremendous activism in the community to make it a better place.
Sure is.
I mean, people get involved. They're very charitable, very knowledgeable. And at the end of the day, I think that's what makes for a strong community. When you think about easy access to 495, the Mass Pike, Route 9, I mean, and it's a wonderful bedroom community.
And it was waiting for you.
Well, I wouldn't say it was
because-
waiting for us. I think it was an opportunity. I mean, it's not too often you get an opportunity to buy 720 acres of land contiguous in one community.
Right.
It's not too often that happens.
For only $30 million, which the fella.
Well, when you're going to remember, when we bought this property in 2007,
Yeah.
and then the world fell apart in 2008.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, whatever we paid, we obviously overpaid, given a year later.
Right.
But fortunately, we were able to persevere, work very closely with the community,
Yeah.
and here we are 10 years later, and I think it's worked out quite well.
Have you sold Pulte everything on the north now?
We've sold,
Except for the-
let me say this, we have everything on the north side exclusive of the age-restricted,
Mhm.
under agreement with Pulte.
Excellent.
We have a stage take down with them every so often.
Excellent.
And, I would say over the next 3 years, they'll have taken down everything on the north side. And as far as the age-restricted, we're in serious discussions with a number of parties on that piece.
Yeah, that looks really. I know you had some drawings and renderings of
Yeah.
what you'd like to see it, and that's not going to add anything to the schools, is it?
0.
Yeah.
It only adds bottom line money to the town,
Hmm.
and we think that's very positive. And by the way, on that also is another further footnote. We've agreed as part of that permitting process when that project starts is to contribute $360,000 to the town for the fire department.
Excellent. And I think you
So the
also,
chief keeps asking me, when do you think of getting that started?
well, the fire department's done a wonderful job getting their equipment and getting the training
Yeah.
and getting some real good plans. That tower is great.
Yeah.
That Chief Slammin fought
Yeah.
so hard for, and isn't there another stipulation too, on the south side, also, for more fire, or maybe even if need be, another station down there?
The agreement on that was if the town of Hopkinton and the town of Ashland chose to build a mutual fire station for both communities at some point in time,
Mhm.
there's a potential we would give money towards that.
Ah, very good. So when do you think, just like the chief asks you, when do you think you're going to begin on the age restricted?
I'd like to say, if all goes well, I think we would like to possibly, frankly, I'll know better in 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say hopefully start submitting something to the planning board as early as this late fall,
Oh,
or
fantastic.
maybe early winter.
Why don't we look at the next group, Eric? We won't spend so much time on it, but just to show the, is that Danforth?
Yes, so this is a picture of Danforth Green, which actually, this was a failed development project. It was the old New England Sand and Gravel site in Framingham, and it was permitted for almost twice as many units as we ended up permitting it for. I was foreclosed on in 2008 and 9. Bank sat on it for 6 years. We finally bought it from them, totally redesigned it, totally re-permitted it, worked with Wayland, it was an adjacent community, worked with the town of Framingham, planning board, selectmen, you name it, and redesigned it and came up with a project that has 180 rental apartments and 173 townhome condominiums. Now, we master planned this, and we made the decision at the time to sell the apartment component to Avalon Apartments, and Brendan Holmes built all the homes, and he did a fabulous job.
And where are they from?
They're out of Southborough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they do a great job. Matter of fact, this was probably one of their most successful projects ever. They sold all 173 homes in less than 3 years.
Wow. That's, that would be a lot on our real estate transactions every week.
But also think about something. They started pricing these in the early stages at about 450,000,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the last one they sold was 839,000.
Oh, man. Is it because it was that much larger, or just because of the
No,
economy?
they weren't larger at all. I mean, it just,
Oh.
granted, there were more amenities probably, maybe a finished basement, but I think, with a strong real estate market and tremendous demand for this product, and frankly, they do a nice job.
Oh, I'd love to see it sometime. I should
Yeah.
take a ride down there.
You should definitely take a ride through.
Now, did you have to do a mitigation on the, wasn't there some toxic stuff going on?
That was cleaned up.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Air Force actually did something there years ago,
yeah.
and the Air Force was liable for it, and they cleaned it up.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's good that people.
But we did some mitigation there with the community. We put some traffic lights in, we did some road widenings, new sewer lines, things like that.
Oh, good. What's this one that Eric has put up on the right?
That's part of the same project.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a swimming pool over at Avalon.
Wow.
The one on the
nice.
right, some of the units, it's called Montage.
Uh-huh.
Montage at Danforth Green.
Ah, yes. And that's what the apartment units are called?
No,
Montage?
those are the condos.
Oh,
The apartments are just called Avalon.
ah.
They're a big publicly traded company.
And there's a kitchen? I
That's a
think?
kitchen, that's a model. You can see another one. There's a model living room. See how beautiful
That is
those are?
nice.
Aren't those
That's
nice?
Really nice, yeah. Well, you've got some great builders. Pulte stuff is beautiful, too.
Yeah. Now, this building on the left, this is called Beach House, and it's in Revere. 2 years ago, we purchased some land right on the ocean. Matter of fact, one of our talking points in our website, it's called beachhouserevere.com, 30 steps to the sand. And you literally, from the front door, if you just walk 30 steps across the
Wow.
street, you're standing on Revere Beach,
Wow.
3.5 mile crescent-shaped beach. It's the oldest public beach in America.
Wow.
And Revere, I remember when I was a kid going swimming in Revere, I'm talking 50 some odd years ago, and it was a little bit honky-tonk in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And it got more honky-tonk in the 70s, but I will tell you, it is a different place today.
That's great. When I was a kid, I know I had some fried clams somewhere
Yeah,
there.
Kelly's.
Kelly's was up
Yeah,
there?
Kelly's
Oh,
is still
okay.
there, hot and strong.
Is that the same people up at Jordan's?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you get the best lobster roll in the world.
But Kelly's, they're famous for their roast beef.
Mm.
But Kelly's in Revere is the original. It's founded in 1952. And
I see.
a fellow named McCarthy. Now, so talking about Revere, so these are 234 luxury apartments. This is really high end. We've got rooftop terraces on the top roof. We've got a roof deck swimming pool with terraces.
Wow.
Over 20,000 square feet of amenity space, terraces, gaming rooms, fireplaces. I mean, you name it. underground parking for 370 cars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, see the picture on the left?
Yeah.
That's 6 stories up on the roof overlooking the ocean.
Pergola. How do those always work? The
Yeah.
way you mean them to?
Absolutely.
You have to point them a certain way?
If you construct them correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, now this is an interior picture, one of the game rooms with a billiards table.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a lobby area. Probably 85% of the building has a water view, which is fabulous.
Yeah, the way you construct it looks like a U shape.
It's an E shape.
E shape?
But even the
Oh,
backsides,
good.
we're in a peninsula, so the backside of that property actually overlooks the bay on the backside. So you're looking at the boats in the harbor,
Oh,
and you're looking at the sunsets in the back, sunrises in the front.
what a great view.
Matter of fact, I mentioned the Hunt earlier, but when you look across the street, across to the ocean, you're looking right at the Hunt. And to your right, you're looking at Winthrop.
Wow.
And we actually have downtown Boston views for some of the units also.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, you told me a Revere Beach story, right?
Which one?
Well, you just told me one, that
Yeah.
you went there as a...
Yeah.
Well, you're not old enough to remember this, but I took the first subway train from Dorchester. I think you have to switch somewhere to get to Revere.
Okay.
And back then, way back then, they didn't have air-conditioned cars. I don't know if they do now. I haven't been on a subway for 50 years.
Well, now it's the Blue Line.
Blue Line. Oh, that's what goes to Revere.
In Wonderland Station, you take the Blue Line right into Boston.
Oh, okay. Well, so it was the first air-conditioned subway train I was ever on. And it was magnificent.
Yeah.
My grandmother took me there. I don't know if I was 4 or 5. I wasn't much older than that. I definitely know I wasn't much older than that. So we get down to the beach, my first time at Revere Beach, and there were only like 3 people on the subway coming from Boston.
And there were 3,000 on the beach.
I think there might have been. I think they were all looking at me because she assured me that I could slip into my bathing suit. So she took a towel and she put it up one side of me and the other side, and she said, no, just slip your pants off. No, you're going to drop that. She says, no, I'm not. Trust me. Well, I don't have to tell you what happened, right? She dropped it. She dropped the towel, and I'm sure in error, while I was in the middle, in between clothing. So that's my Revere Beach memory.
Now, what year was that?
That had to be early 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was born in 47. So
Yeah.
some things stay with you,
No, they do.
and that stayed with me.
I have fond memories of going there with my brother swimming.
Oh, I know. I
Back in
swam
the
too,
mid
yeah.
mid 50s, early 60s.
Wollaston was another great beach, if you
Sure.
didn't mind the jellyfish. I don't think
Yeah.
I went there without hitting a few jellyfish while I
Yeah.
swam. But those are some great beaches down that area.
Well, right now there are over 1,000 apartments being built in Revere. As a matter of fact, a building that just finished prior to ours is getting up to $3,500 a month for rent.
Holy
With Ocean, now we're talking Revere.
Yeah.
So what's happening is, because of the burgeoning market in downtown Boston, I mean, downtown Boston, they're getting $3,200 for a brand-new studio, 500 square feet.
Wow.
It's smaller than your office.
Wow.
So what's happening is you're getting a migration of people who are going into Everett, Chelsea, Revere, Medford, Malden. These places are just taken off because rather than paying, say, $6,000 in Boston, you can get an equally as good a first-class product for $3,500 or $2,500 or $2,400.
Wow.
And you're 20 minutes or 15 minutes from downtown Boston. It's great.
Oh, it is. That's wonderful. Well, what happened to me is when I moved to Hopkinton and purchased the place a year later, and it was a small place down the lake. It was a converted cottage on Hayward Street, and so it was a project. I was
Sure.
in my 30s, and I didn't mind doing projects. Now, that's a project. I'm not buying that. And but it was the lowest tax rate around. I paid $600 in taxes a year. I mean, I can't believe what they're paying now. They rebuilt. Somebody bought it and rebuilt the cottage into a 2-story, which I would have liked to have done. But and now I think that's similar, like that energy and that spillover from this is the top, and well, I can afford this, same thing, less money, and so on and so forth. I think that having seen, we do the real estate transactions every Monday. Eric
Yeah.
does that stuff.
Oh, good job. I see it every week.
Yeah, good job, Eric.
I notice you highlight the more expensive ones in red.
We do. I think you've, I don't know if anyone's, competing with you on those red ones, but, yeah, we've seen some of yours
There's
in
a few
red.
homes on Conley Drive.
Oh, my goodness, aren't those great?
Yeah.
They really are. And then, Brian Gassett, too, he's got some
Sure.
great stuff going
Yeah.
on.
No, Hopkinton is a great community.
It truly is, and I know the first time I sat at Brown and Smith's, which is, again, before your time. No, I mean, you were alive then, but,
I'm only 3 or 4 years younger than you.
Oh, okay. All right, then. I thought you were like 35.
Yeah.
So, I sat down at Brown Smith's, and I was working at Western Nurseries, which I absolutely loved working there. It was such fun. You're young, you're 20 years old, 21, and you want to carry stuff, you want to lift stuff, and, get some of that energy moving. I sat down at Brown Smith's, and right away people start talking, as if they knew you.
Sure.
And it was such a wonderful community. People got a little ticked off later on with some of the projects that were going on. I don't mean yours, but and I can see where you drive out to Sutton, which is where some of the Hopkins people have moved.
Well, but one of the things you got to remember, it's human nature not to want to see change.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's like I'm comfortable. A change might make things different. So
Right.
that's just human nature.
It is. And then there's also nostalgia, which you may have seen some photos of mine from Sutton and Oxford,
Sure.
which you can't get those photos around here. 50 acres of corn.
Yeah, no, you're
and-
absolutely right.
And herds and herds and herds of cows. And
But look, I think the one thing that's important in Hopkinton, when legacy is done, the roads are finished, the trees are maturing, and they start to fill out, which they do every year. We're still going to have 500 acres of preserved open space. That is a huge, huge win for the community,
yeah.
because it could have been different. But luckily, between the various scoping sessions, the planning board, the selectmen, and everybody else in town, because as you recall, when we had our first meeting, when we went to town meeting for the master plan permitting process, average town meeting is what, 200-300 people? Maybe.
Yeah. 300
would be a lot, right? We had 1,200 people.
Yeah.
They had to have it at the high school gymnasium.
Right.
And we had an 87% approval at that meeting.
Wow.
Because we were preserving space, we were going to
Yeah.
guarantee positive revenue, and there's a lot of positive things. So
Right.
I know there are some people that may be concerned about this, whatever. But at the end of the day, when it's finished and it's generating positive revenue, we get 500 acres of open space. I think that's a win for the community.
Oh, it is. I mean, the town, and you're right, people are resistant to change. That's just human nature. But that's not a lot of people resistant, because when you had 87%, that's great. And so next, we're looking for, how many more homes did you say? Was it 425?
There's 425 on the north side,
Units.
of which I'm going to guess is Pulte's already taken down the permits for about 140.
Wow.
And I think they're moving right along. And I think probably, as I mentioned, they may have 70 or 80 sold before the end of the year. And they're progressing along quite nicely.
There's a lot of traffic, because I do use that road.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I love the funny people. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Well, I was telling Peter Mezza last week about driving up Legacy North, and on the left, past the, how the sidewalk veers
Yeah. Yeah.
southerly. And just past that, looking toward the towers, are these shrubs or shrubs and
Oh,
trees.
yeah, the topiaries.
Topiaries.
And the weepers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I look at it like I often look at things and see something else. And of course, I don't mean hallucinations, because that's wrong. But what I do mean is that somebody had trimmed them. And when I was describing it to Peter, he said, "Oh, the funny people."
Oh, is that what he calls them?
Because there was a guy there that trimmed them, I guess, as funny
Oh,
people.
sure, yeah.
And so I get a kick out of that when I drive down there.
So it's funny you say that, because back in the early 1970s, because we're in the landscape architectural and
Right.
construction business, so
Yeah.
we used to buy a lot of plant material back in the 70s from Western Nurseries. And I would drive out here, and I thought you had to pack a lunch and a blanket or something by the time you got here.
Yeah.
Because Route 495, I don't even think was fully finished at that time. So when
Right.
you get out here, and I drove in and I looked at this place for my first time,
Mhm.
I was taken aback at how beautiful it was.
Oh, right,
I mean,
yeah.
Wayne's father, who was managing and running it at the time, the place you could eat your lunch off the
Yeah.
ground. It was so clean.
Yeah.
All the beds were mowed and hoed, but I remember they used to have bus tours from all over New England
Wow.
because they had topiaries, and they had these carved animals, and they're absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
And they had the sand beach, the sand pond,
And they have the waterfall.
and the waterfall feature, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Their catalog back in the 70s and the 80s was the industry standard. It was beautiful.
true. And thank you for that, because I shot that catalog a few times.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Not a lot, but
Yeah.
I think over time they used less and less,
Yeah.
and so who knows? Maybe one of the ranch hands did it the last time.
I don't know.
People do that. So we're looking forward to a lot of great stuff with Legacy Farms in the area. The region has the Danforth project to fall in love with. And if they want to move up to Revere, as you may know, Jerry Holland is from Revere.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, she loves telling people that.
Yeah.
She's a tough gal. And
Yeah.
I think her father had a Chinese restaurant.
Did he really?
He was I think he was Italian,
Yeah.
and he had a
Well,
Chinese
they have a
restaurant.
large Italian community there.
Yeah. So that makes me want to go to Revere on an air-conditioned subway, and I'll do that in memory of my grandmother.
Well, take the blue line.
Soon.
You can take the blue line.
The blue line, where-
right to downtown.
From where? Where does it start?
Well, I think South Station, maybe. I'm not sure.
Oh, because we left.
Bowdoin.
We went from Dorchester, but we
Okay.
had to switch somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, those were great times. So, Revere Beach, Kelly's roast beef, and
Well, if you remember,
Beach House.
well, just to give you an example, you probably remember Wonderland when they had the dog track?
I remember about it. Yeah.
Okay, so they're in the process of tearing that down right now. So that's 35 acres, which is going to be a tremendous development opportunity.
Turning it down. What do you mean?
Well, if you remember, they outlawed greyhound racing a number
Right.
of years ago.
Right.
So once they outlawed that, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
So now they're tearing the facility down.
Oh,
And-
right. It had like an overhang.
Yeah, the big thing. And at the same time, Suffolk Downs has just been sold.
Oh,
Horse racing, they're still doing a little bit there, but not much. That is a huge project. That's 150 acres. 45 acres in Revere, 105 acres in East Boston,
mm-hmm.
and that will be probably a 20-year development.
Now, are you doing
Housing.
any of the other ones?
No, I'm not doing those two,
Yeah.
but just to tell you what's happening in that marketplace, there's going to be
incredible.
tremendous changes. East Boston is on fire.
That's
It's probably gone up 50% in the last 3 years,
Wow.
the prices.
Wow.
It's just unbelievable.
It's, of course, I think a lot of people out here came from in there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was born in Dorchester.
I grew up in Waltham.
Yeah, so did Bill Morgan
Oh,
from
really?
the Spoon.
Sure.
Yeah. So it only stands to reason that there's only so much land. There's only so much space, and there's a lot of wealthy people having wealthy children, and so they need a place to live.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, we also have a lot of migration to the United States also,
yeah.
and from all over the world.
And these the people that are moving into Pulte, into Legacy Farms, they seem to be what you'd find as educated people.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly diverse community, and I think what you're finding is one of the things that people find very important about Hopkinton. There's a whole group of people looking to buy homes and want new, not a second home, but a
Second,
new
yeah.
a new
Yeah.
house. New is important. Quality, good school systems are
Mhm.
important. Easy access to technology and jobs. Easy access to the Mass Pike 495 and Route 9. So that's why Hopkinton is a wonderful community for a commuter.
Legacy Farms, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, if you want to move to a great town and you want to have new construction, quality construction, how else would you describe it?
Well, I'd say not just Legacy Farms, but if you want to live in Hopkinton, it's a wonderful community. It's a welcoming community, has a tremendous school system, tremendous athletic programs, and I think it's a wonderful place to live.
When are you moving in? Just kidding. I only put you on the
I'll tell you
on the
something.
spot
If
once.
I didn't love where I lived, I'd really consider it.
Roy MacDowell, ladies and gentlemen, the developer of Legacy Farms and much, much more. You can watch this video again if you want. And I want to thank Roy for being here this evening and explaining what he's done, what he's going to do, and where to get some great homes. Thanks, Roy. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Robert. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
you're a real treasure for Hopkinton.
You heard it.
I mean, think about it. When you think of it, I just know in my 10-year history here in Hopkinton, there is so much I would not know if I didn't see Hop News. Whether it's things going on politically, permitting, socially, and otherwise. I think it's a real treasure trove.
Thanks, Roy.
And I mean that in all sincerity.
I appreciate that, and I believe you are a sincere person. And I want to let people know that we are putting this on YouTube. This has been live, and thank the people who have been watching live, and thank those who will watch later. Good night.
Thank you.